Hi, this is Lady Lex UK and this is a Dreams gadget tutorial. Today we're looking at the laser scope. So you go to sensors and input and grab our laser scope, which looks like a lollipop. There's our laser scope. This is also known as ray casting because you're going to cast a ray or a laser out of this gadget. It is a sensor gadget, but unlike the others that use zones, this is just looking at whether or not an object is going to hit this thin line. Now you can change the length of this line. You can use the gizmo to do that, so you can go up and down here after grabbing it with the R2 button and just lifting it up and down. That can change the length. Or you can change the length in the tweak menu by using the sliders. It also has a fall off, just like the other zones. Like this. This is the round part of the gizmo, and you can make that longer or shorter. So what this gadget is going to do is, if an object is detected by this line, then it's going to send a signal of 1. If you use the fall off, it will send a signal between 0 and 1, 0 and 1. So I keep saying 0 because I'm British and people get confused. I'll have to try and retrain myself to say 0. Between 0 and 1. So you can have a variant of detection by using the fall off. Right, now let me show you the laser in action. So there we go, we'll point the laser, and the detection part is this: hit something. This is going to flash white when that laser has hit something. So let's move it down. There we go, it's hit the floor and up, hit the floor and up. So as soon as this laser has hit something, it's going to send a signal. Now you can filter what it can detect using labels. So I've labelled up this floor as scenery. So if we go into labels here and we unclick scenery like that, now when we go and try and detect with our laser, it's not paying any attention to this floor whatsoever. Not that you would know. There we go. So it's not detecting the floor anymore. But if I move it over to the block, it's really hard to see because I've got this in the wrong place. There we go. So there we go. Block. It's detecting the block, but it's not detecting the floor. Block, floor, block, floor. So you can filter out what it detects using labels. You can't do it with tags. It uses tags for something else, and that's the next thing on our tweak menu. That's point at tags. So we're going to look for tag 1, which I have placed on that block there, and I think you can see now that laser is going to aim at that tag. Doesn't matter where I put the starting point of that laser, it's always going to point in the direction of that tag. Now that is useful for things like gun barrels. So if you had a tag on the end of your gun barrel and you had your laser scope, you could make sure that even if the base of the gun is moving, then the end point of that laser is always going to be pointing out. So and you can go past the tag like that. So I think you can see now. So now we've got an aim. We've got a sight, we've got an aim, and for a gun that is very useful. So you know that if they were to fire at this point, they would hit anything along this line. And that tag would be the end of the barrel. So you could aim your gun about, or your cannon or whatever, quite easily around like so. So that's what tags do. So you can't say I'm just looking for this particular tag, because it's as you notice, it's hitting something because I've put the tag on an object. Let me just take it off. Oops. Oh, gold. Trying to do this sideways. Never a good idea. Right, there we are. Lift a tag up into the air. Okay, it's not hitting anything. Now it is. Not hitting anything. Now it is. Okay, so so if I was to fire now, I'm hitting something, so that would work. So there we go. So that's what the tag does. Here is local space. This determines, let's get rid of the tag option. This determines whether or not the laser scope moves with the angle of your gadget or not. So if you have it turned off, the angle of your gadget will be irrelevant. So it'll always point up into the scene. If you choose local space, it will point in the direction of the angle of your gadget. So bear that in mind. It might be good for your game to have one or the other. This is consider players. I'm just going to ignore that. That is to do with multiplayer, which we currently do not have. This is going to consider whether you're playing 1, 2, 3 or 4, and as we don't have multiplayer yet, let's just ignore that one, shall we? Right, here is detection mode for the labels. Like I said, you could choose to filter add or remove. So add or remove any of these as your options. This one is looking for any of these. This is looking for all of these. This is unlikely to be used with a laser scope. So you're more likely to be this one. He's going to detect any of these. And he's going to detect visible, hidden, or both. Now, obviously, you can't have something that's hidden, that's visible and hidden at the same time. So this is either. So it's either visible, hidden, or either of those. And same with collidable. It only detects collidable objects, non-collidable objects, or either of those. So that's the labels. X-ray mode. I have no idea. Let's see. What does it say? When this is on, the laser only stops when it connects with an item with a selected label. When off, the laser will stop at any object it hits, regardless of label. So there you go. That's what that does. Right. These are the outputs. The top one is the hit position. This provides you with a number. The hit position, whereabouts it hit on the object. It provides you with a number of what it's hit where, which would be very useful for you. Also, the hit surface orientation, which is another number that gives you the surface orientation of the object that is hit, and this gives you the distance of the object that is hit. So all of this is very useful information. This is providing you, this is the sensor part of it. This is providing you with a series of numbers that you can use with a calculator, etc., to calculate some trigonometry, geometry, physics, etc. So like I say, this is another one of those gadgets which is very simple, but what you can do with it is very complicated. And so this laser can be used in combination with multiple other lasers, for example. So you can determine the position of an object using triangulation. Don't ask me, I am not a mathematical expert in any way, and I have no clue. But you can definitely use multiple lasers to do mathematical calculations based on distance, angle, etc. And this is the information here. You'll probably need splitters because most of these are they all are fat wires, because you're working with 3D space, and it gives you 3 snippets of three numbers for each position, angle, and hit distance. So you'll probably need splitters and calculators in order to use them, but that's what it provides. Right, now, how can we use it? What is it useful for? Let's get rid of these tags in case it confuses. Right, okay. I've built a little box here. I've got an invisible wall at the front so we can see him, and this is a completely AI character. He's just going to run around inside this box, and every time he hits one of these blocks he's going to turn. So let's turn him on. So when he hits a wall he turns and tries to navigate away from what he's hit. And he's just going to run around our box randomly and get around. And hopefully he's not going to get stuck in some sort of silly loop. He's going to go in different places. There we go. He's now over this side of the box. So he's completely autonomous. He is just running around, and I've got him doing no other directions other than when he hits a box. So he's limited to turning direction only when he hits something. But to make this a little bit more interesting, you would put in some randomized actions so that he walks, runs, turns, etc. So that he's a little bit more random. But this is a way of detecting the walls, and we've used a laser scope. So let's have a look at his microchip. Right, okay, so I've put a microchip in. This microchip has a link to our Puppet interface. I took out the controller because I didn't need that anymore, because he was going to be automated. He's not going to be controlled by us, but left the Puppet interface in. So let's open up our microchip. Okay, so there's our laser scope. I've got that sort of at his knees. You can put this anywhere. You can put it at his feet. You can put it at his chest, his head height, wherever you want it to be. Don't forget, this laser, it needs to be, we can make that a little bit longer, so not that one, that one, so that he turns before he hits the wall. You have to make sure that that's facing the right direction. It is quite difficult in 3D space. I always find this very difficult with these gizmos to get it exactly right. You'll get better results the more correct the position is. So here's our laser scope. Whoa! Right, so here's our laser scope here. So I've set it so that it's local space. It's going to detect both visible and invisible objects. And I've labelled up our puppet as friend, and so it won't detect himself. So I've unchosen that label, so he's not going to find himself. And we don't need any of these. Right, so now we have our output here, which is hit something. And this is going into a selector and a NOT gate and a randomizer. So when you hit something, it's going to choose on the selector B. and B is the rotation. If it doesn't hit, if he's not hitting something, then we're choosing A, and A is linked to the walk. It's linked to the puppet interface, and it's linked to go forwards. So he's going to walk forwards, run forwards. He's going to run forwards unless he hits something, in which case he's going to do what B is. Now B has the rotator. I've got it quite high so that he rotates quite quickly, so he turns nice and quickly. Otherwise I've left pretty much everything the same. There we go. So that's going to make him rotate. And you'll notice there is a variable here called direction that is linked to the direction of rotation, which is on the last page here. So it's linked into this. And the options for that are either 1, 0, or -1. And that changes the direction or which way he rotates, either a right turn or a left turn. So I've put a randomizer in here. So every time he detects something, it's going to randomly pick one of these modifiers. So this modifier is going to set it to be a 1. And this modifier is going to set it to be -1. And there we go. So that's going to change that rotator. It's randomly going to change it from a left turn to a right turn. So that way he's not doing the same movement over and over again. It's a little bit more randomized. And he's moving around all over the place. And that's basically it. So the laser, if it detects the wall, it rotates our character, and when it is not detecting a wall, it makes our character run. And we have a randomizer to which way it turns, and that's it. It's a very simple little chip. And it's pretty good AI. Off he goes. As you'll notice, he does the same thing most of the time. Oh no, he's done something like different. Ah, no. If he goes right, he always seems to do the same thing over here. But no, he's doing something different this time. He's going over there. That's good. So you might find that he does similar things each time, or you might find he does something different. It depends on that randomizer and what it gives you. Like I say, if you wanted to create true AI for this character, you would have him changing direction when he's running as well, so that he is literally randomized all over the place. Now you notice he's spinning because he's in an area where there's lots of options, but he quickly stops doing that once he's got his bearings, and off he goes again. It's a bit weird watching him run around with his microchip open. Looks like he's got a sail. Right, there we go. So that's the laser scope. Now, ray casting is a complex thing and can be used to do all sorts of things other than just detecting objects in front of it. If you're interested, I recommend you Google it. There's plenty of tutorials on ray casting about and all the amazing things that you can do. There's things in Minecraft that use ray casting, and you can use it to create not just AI, but also dynamic environments and all sorts of things. It is a very complex thing, which I have no expertise in whatsoever, so I can't really show you. But I hope that was useful for you, and that it sort of explains what a laser scope is. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in your dreams.